In breaking news for the second time just today, a court has blocked Donald Trump from firing and taking over a branch or an entity that doesn't belong to him. First, he got blocked by Gia Cobb, a federal judge in the District of Columbia, from his hostile takeover attempt on the Federal Reserve by firing Lisa Cook. That got blocked. And now the court, the United States Court of Appeals for D.C. has just blocked Donald Trump from his firing, effectively trying to take over the Library of Congress, operative term there, Congress, and its Register of Copyrights, which sits in the legislative branch. No, Donald Trump, you can't fire somebody that doesn't work for you. And more to the point, and I'll read from this decision. Todd Blanche, who's Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer and his number 2 in the Department of Justice, he doesn't seem to be recognized at all as the acting librarian of Congress, because that branch, again, that entity belongs to Congress. It's the research arm of Congress. It helps them develop the research they need to pass laws. That's an Article 1 power. And no, Donald Trump can't appoint the acting librarian. In fact, in this order is a factual finding by the appellate court, effectively, that nobody is respecting Todd Blanche as the librarian of Congress. Would you? I wouldn't. I'm glad you're here on Legal AF YouTube channel. Take a moment and hit the free subscribe button. Let's get to the case. We're going to talk a lot about Shira Perlmutter. She is Shira Perlmutter, however she pronounces her first name. She is the Register of Copyrights and the director of the U.S. Copyright Office. That has to do with, when we say copyrights, that's a type of intellectual property about things that are written or filmed or digitized, and the artistic value of them, the original value of them, and how they are protected by a society. We want to protect the content makers. We want to protect the artists. We want to protect the authors. We want to protect all of them by giving them ownership interest in the intangible things we call copyright. This is separate from trademark. That's what a logo looks like, for instance, or what a bottle looks like in shape for Coca-Cola. This is copyright. This goes on songwriting, movie producing, artwork, anything that's in sound, anything that's visual, anything that's in writing. They have copyright protection. So apparently Donald Trump has been doing a hostile takeover of the Library of Congress, which, as the court, Judge Childs and Judge Pan in their 2-1 decision noted, it was created by Congress to assist Congress, not the president, in preparing laws. And in this case, in coming up with proper structures and formats and schemes to run the copyright world or protocols, to promote artistic creation in America. It doesn't belong to the president. You can't fire what you don't employ. And here's what the court said here when Shira Perlmutter, the Register of Copyrights, and that's the title used for somebody who directs the Copyright Office, she reports to the Librarian of Congress. Only reports to the Librarian of Congress. Only the Librarian of Congress can fire her. So what did Donald Trump do? Donald Trump tried to fire her directly, and then through Todd Blanche, after they fired the Librarian of Congress, which was also likely illegal and unconstitutional. But we're not here on that. We're here on Shira Perlmutter. But she didn't go anywhere. She says, I'm not, you can't fire me. I don't even work for you. And here's what the 2-1 decision said about that. It says the Register of Copyrights is a unique position within the legislative branch, housed within the Library of Congress. It serves as the director of the U.S. Copyright Office. The Librarian of Congress appoints and supervises the register, and only the Librarian of Congress has authority to remove the register. This all has to do with because Shira Perlmutter issued in May of 2025 a policy paper, which she's required to do a study about artificial intelligence and the world of copyrights, and her recommendations about how artificial intelligence can be governed by copyright law. Well, Donald Trump didn't like it. Somebody whispered in his ear that it's somehow against some of his policies, maybe leading back to his NFTs, non-fungible tokens, or his cryptocurrency. So he fired her because he didn't like the report. Except Wrong guy to fire her. So when he fired the Librarian of Congress, he's tried to stick Todd Blanche in as the new librarian, even though he's got a full-time job at the Department of Justice. And here's what the court said about that. This is on page 6. Notwithstanding Perlmutter's purported removal and the purported appointment of Blanche as acting librarian, it appears that Perlmutter is still serving in her role as the register. Get this, she got fired. A district court judge would not put her back in her position, but she's just been showing up like Office Space doing her job because nobody recognizes Blanche. He apparently has a no-show job. So it goes on to say that in support of her motion for preliminary injunction, Perlmutter asserted that to her knowledge, no official at the Library of Congress has recognized Mr. Blanche as the acting Librarian of Congress, and she's just going about her job. Now, here's how the 2-to-1 majority talks about the establishment of the Library of Congress. On the bottom of page 2, it says, Congress established the Library of Congress in 1800 as a part of the legislative branch. It serves as the research arm of Congress and is recognized as the National Library of the United States. Housed within the Library of Congress is the U.S. Copyright Office. The Constitution vests Congress with the power to secure for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. And the Register oversees the Copyright Office. It is the principal advisor to Congress on national and international copyright matters, testifying upon request and providing ongoing leadership and impartial expertise on copyright law and policy. That's what Shira Perlmutter does. So this decision, which just came out today, I'm going to post it on Legal AF Substack. You can come join us there as well. Become a paid member and a paid subscriber there. That helps support Legal AF. They go through all the factors to issue an injunction to keep her in her job, a job she apparently never left, even though she was ordered to. And then at the end of the day, they said they're going to enjoin here up at the Court of Appeals level. They're going to enjoin and stop the firing, and she remains the register of the Copyright Office. And if Donald Trump doesn't like it, which he won't, he can try to take it up to the United States Supreme Court. Now, Judge Walker, Justin Walker, who's a Trump appointee, he, of course, dissented. And in his dissent, he said, well, this is the same thing as what happened with Gwen Wilcox and what happened with Kathy Harris and what happened with all these other people that Donald Trump fired. You keep arguing that it's separation of powers, but that's what that was the argument for those people as well. And the United States Supreme Court came down on their ruling and said that, now this is the key, if President Trump has the executive power as the executive branch, if these individuals exercise a large component of their job is executive function, taking away from the president, he gets to fire them at will without any oversight. That may be Judge Walker. However, there's a big difference here. Shira Perlmutter, the Register of Copyrights, doesn't work for the executive branch. She works for the legislative branch. There is no debate that the Library of Congress sits in the Article 1 branch. It's not a hybrid. It doesn't straddle the fence between the executive branch. Now, their argument and Walker's argument is, well, copyright law. Yeah, and I leaned in yeah, what about copyright law? Copyright law has to be implemented by the executive branch. I'm like, okay, all law has to be faithfully executed by the executive branch. What does that have to do with anything? Here's what he says in his dissent. The Register of Copyrights exercises executive power in a host of ways. I was like, this is interesting. Let me hear how a legislative branch officer exercises executive power. From within the Library of Congress, she administers the Copyright Act. Right, that's an act of Congress, which requires the examination of copyright applications, the issuance of copyright registrations, and the recordation of transfers of copyright ownership. Right, those are all legislative functions. Those are all powers of the statute passed by Congress. In addition, she has rulemaking. So he's arguing that, well, the execution of those laws are done by that's executive function because she's executing on it. I don't think that's the right way to look at that. In addition, she has rulemaking authority that is subject to review by the Librarian of Congress, right, who reports to Congress. And she has some oversight over the copyright royalty judges who have the power to promulgate copyright regulations. Look, I think that's a huge stretch to try to get this case to look like the cases where the Supreme Court has said, oh, you're exercising tremendous executive function? Oh, then you are able to be fired by the executive branch. There is this unique thing within Congress which deals with copyrights, and it's self-executing. It doesn't need the executive branch to do anything. It's not stealing power from the executive branch. The executive branch is there to faithfully execute the laws to the extent that Congress has provided the laws to them. But when Congress retains for themselves the ability to administer something like the copyright scheme, then there's no role for the president, and therefore no executive function being exercised, and therefore he can't fire that which he did not hire, nor which does not work for him. Now, this is a 3-judge panel: Childs, who was appointed by Obama; Pan, who was appointed by Biden; and Walker, who's a Trumper. So the next stop on the train is probably to the United States Supreme Court. And we'll see if they think this is the case, like Donald Trump can fire anybody he wants, or they're going to recognize that this is the Library of Congress, a very unique structure created by Congress to aid them, and it's a violation of separation of powers to let Trump start firing people that work for Congress and help Congress do their job under Article 1. I'll follow it all right here for you on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. And as I said before, I will post this order over on Legal AF Substack, so you can read it for yourself along with the video. Come over to Legal AF Substack. It is the way we are building our community together, and think about becoming a paid member as well. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.